I made a lot of money on that game.
Did you?
I bet Notre Dame straight up. Clemson's overrated. They should have lost to Syracuse. And when they beat Syracuse, they stormed the field. And you're like, what are you doing, Clemson? Like, have some pride. You stormed the field after beating Syracuse? Like, we're terrible. You know, like, whatever. Like, we were undefeated, but we hadn't really been. I mean, like, have some pride. Act like you've been there before, Clemson. So when that happened, I was, oh, yeah. I made a lot of money on Notre Dame. God bless the Irish.
Until I was 16 years old, I thought that Notre Dame football was Notre Dame football, because why would I know? I'm from Australia.
Right.
So yeah, it's still Notre Dame football to me. It's ridiculous.
Notre Dame football is having a renaissance.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, also having a renaissance. The renaissance man in football is Justin Fields, dead and buried after the first few weeks, now looking like the best quarterback in the league. And he's on the love list again.
He's been the number one quarterback in fantasy like over the last 5 or 6 weeks, right? Yeah. I mean, like, he's had 5 straight games with 17 or more fantasy points since week 5. He's the 3rd best quarterback in fantasy. We talked about this like on Monday. All these people are like, oh, now he's a QB1. Like, where have you guys been?
Yeah.
He's been a QB1 for a month.
Get on
and
our
certainly
level.
This week, get on board, get on our level. That's Justin Fields talking, not me. Because, look, this is a guy who over his last 4 games has had 602 rushing yards. He's had 3 rushing touchdowns. Again, he's just an absolute fantasy beast. And now he gets the Detroit Lions, who are allowing over 20 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, 3rd most in the NFL this season. He's my number 4 quarterback. Think about what Aaron Rodgers could have done to Detroit if he'd thrown to people in Packers uniforms.
Yeah.
It was an interesting strategy. It was like one of those where you saw Aaron Rodgers throwing to all these Lions, and you're like, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays out. How it plays out for you.
Didn't go great for Mr. Rodgers.
Yeah.
Total's 48.5 in that game. Chicago, Detroit, so expecting a lot of scoring. Also expecting a lot of scoring in Miami, Cleveland.
In a shallow league, like a 10-team league that I'm in, I dropped Tom Brady for Justin Fields.
Yeah, so you should.
I feel exactly.
So
feel
you should.
very
it's
good about it.
Not even a question.
Not even a question.
Yep. I would drop Tom Brady for Tua Tagovailoa as well, and he's on the love list.
He's averaging. He's played 5 full games so far this year, right? Tua Tagovailoa is averaging 24.6 fantasy points, 336 passing yards in those 5 full games. He's top 5 in deep ball rate over that stretch. Why does that matter? Because he's playing the Cleveland Browns. He has Tyreek Hill. He has Jalen Waddle. Over the last 4 weeks, Browns allow the 6th highest passer rating. This game is at home for Miami. Browns are they're like the 25th scoring defense here. It's actually a pretty high over-under as well in this game.
Yep, almost 50.
Yeah, it opened at 48.5. Give me Tua Tagovailoa as a top 5 play this week.
Yep. Okay, let's jump to Trevor Lawrence, who saved his season and his team's season by coming up off the mat against the Raiders. He's on the love list against Kansas City.
Jags are double-digit underdogs in this game, right? I mean, it opened at 9.5.
It's still 9.5.
Oh, it's 9.5. It didn't move to 10 yet. All right, so whatever. Jaguars are 9.5-point underdogs in this game. We expect them to have to throw against Kansas City, and I think he'll be successful at that. Chiefs are allowing passing touchdowns at the 3rd highest rate this season. They've given up multiple passing touchdowns in every single game prior to last week when they played, I'm never going to throw Malik Willis.
Yes.
But prior to, every game they've played a quarterback that throws, they've given up multiple passing touchdowns. In fact, quarterbacks facing the Chiefs average 38.4 pass attempts per game. That is 3rd most in the NFL. Lawrence also gets a couple points with his legs. He's had over 20 rushing yards in 3 of the past 5 games. We talked about Christian Kirk earlier in the show, Jay. He's on the love list as well. So, yes, Trevor Lawrence is my number 9 quarterback this week. I think he's out there in a decent amount of leagues. So I think he's a very viable streamer if Josh Allen were to miss, if Kyler Murray were to miss, if you're looking to replace Lamar Jackson, if you're looking to replace Joe Burrow, if you're, I really like Trevor Lawrence this week at Kansas City in some junk time scoring.
Yep, a lot of the underlying numbers on Lawrence suggest that regression is coming in a good way and he should be better the rest of the season. He's been unbearably bad in the red zone relative to the rest of the field, and that's something that just regresses. You're not like the best quarterback up until the 20-yard line and then the worst quarterback in the league. Once you get there, that's going to flip around. Yeah. He will throw more touchdowns going forward.
Kirk Cousins says, hold my beer.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yes, Kirk Cousins aside, generally speaking.
True.
Yes.
There are outliers to every rule.
There are exceptions that make the rule.
Yeah, let's jump to some others receiving votes, headlined by one of the great overperformers in fantasy this year, Daniel Jones.
Look, his rushing, I'm not saying he's Justin Fields, but the rushing is obviously very real.
Better than Jalen Hurts.
With Danny Dimes, he's averaging 45 rushing yards a game. He's had at least 6 rush attempts in every single game this year. And now he gets the Houston Texans, who have allowed the most rushing yards in the NFL this year. You can run on the Houston Texans. Over the last 4 weeks, no team has given up more rushing yards per game than Houston. Danny Dimes is a guy for me. Jimmy Garoppolo has 4 straight games with multiple touchdown passes and over 250 passing yards in 3 of the 4. He's QB 14 for me. And Jacoby Brissett, again, you have to face Miami. We know the Dolphins are going to put up points, and the Dolphins, as a result, have given up a lot of points as well. I think people would be shocked about this, but in the 4 losses that Cleveland has had, and they're like 4.5-point underdogs or 3.5-point underdogs here on the road to Miami. In their 4 losses, he's averaging 35 pass attempts a game. And so, do I love Jacoby Brissett? No, but do I think he's a viable, mid to low end QB2 this week in what should be a high scoring game against the Dolphins? I do.
Revenge game for Jacoby Brissett.
Revenge game. That's absolutely right.
Okay, let's go to the hate list. And look, I don't think you really extended yourself on this one, Matthew. You feel like you're at the kind of end of the night with the column, a couple Mai Tais, starting to get a little bit tired.
Well,
you've gone with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
I know, but you know what? By the way, if I'd thought about this, 22 years ago when I came up with love-hate in 1 minute, literally, who thought I was going to make a career? It was just going to be this goofy thing I did for Roto World on the side. And so, love-hate. But if I'd thought about it with any kind of, preciseness or thought for the future, I would have come up with a completely different premise.
Yeah.
Because the bane of my existence is coming up with quarterbacks to hate.
Yes.
Because, this guy's 18th, but he's still going to put up 18 points. That's the thing. That's why I suggest the best way to play fantasy is the 2-quarterback league or a super flex league, because there's just too many good quarterbacks in the NFL and in fantasy. Too many good quarterbacks, but that's a list that does not include Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. So yes, he's on the hate list. It's a little bit obvious. I have him at QB 21. It's a little bit of shooting fish in a barrel, but Aaron Rodgers shouldn't be rostered in fantasy unless you're in a deep super flex league or a 2-quarterback league. Forget not playing him. I put him on here just to make the point of seriously, his rostership percentage is still very high. Do not no with Aaron Rodgers. He should not be on your roster. And now he plays the Dallas Cowboys, who've allowed only 1 quarterback to score more than 17 fantasy points against them, and that was Justin Fields, and a lot of it was on his legs. We don't expect Aaron Rodgers to run like Justin Fields. Only 2 quarterbacks have thrown for even 215 yards against the Cowboys. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers' line is on BetMGM, but I'm taking the under, especially with no Romeo Doubs in this one. They've given up 8 total passing touchdowns so far this year, the Cowboys are. That's tied for 3rd fewest in the NFL. Pick a number, any number, and it all spells avoid.
Yep, I think this is going to be a bloodbath, honestly. Dallas coming off the bye, arrested Micah Parsons. He was a little bit banged up. He's going to be right to go. I'd be very concerned about Aaron Rodgers. Also concerned about Russell Wilson, who hasn't been good anyway, and now he plays a pretty solid Titans defense with, like we've been talking about, a total of 36.5.
Yeah, Titans allowing Titans are allowing passing touchdowns at the 3rd lowest rate in the NFL over the last month, and in games in which under 50 points are scored this season, to your point about the fact that the over-under is 36. In games in which under 50 points are scored this season, Russell Wilson is averaging 12.5 fantasy points per game. And so, I get it, they're off the bye, so maybe hopefully they've got a better grasp of the offense, and him and Nathaniel Hackett are a little bit more on the same page than they have been. But he's my QB 19, and I might be too high on him.
Just with health and the bye, I like the Broncos plus 2.5 in that game. I don't love it. I do think Mike Vrabel is probably the best coach in the NFL right now, and Nathaniel Hackett is not.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.